Hello, all, and welcome to the Movie Bears podcast. I'm Brad Harris, and when our schedules allow, I am joined by some of my favorite husky, hairy, huggable homos to talk about something near and dear to our hearts. That, of course, being the great wide world of film. Although this week's episode, out of all the millions and trillions and thousands, the numbers are getting smaller, that's weird, of movies out there, we're going to focus on just one. And it's fairly apropos given this time of year. Halloween is coming up tomorrow relative to when we're recording. So how fitting that we are going to be reviewing the new Halloween sequel. Does it count as a sequel? I mean, I guess it does.
It's a sequel.
Yeah. Continuity, like, I don't know. It's a sequel to some.
It's absolutely a sequel, and I think, and someone could correct me if I'm wrong, this may be the first sequel that has the exact same name as the original film. I'm not sure.
Didn't they do that once before though? Wasn't one of the other sequels?
The only other one to actually be named Halloween was the reboot, the Rob Zombie reboot. So this is the third Halloween movie, but only the second Halloween that's a sequel. There's a lot of timelines going on here.
It's confusing AF.
Brad dropped out. Did he drop out for you, Will?
Yes, he did, which is
this is disturbing.
He was not the person I was expecting to drop out on audio.
Right? I mean, he just totally dropped, which is weird because we had the cable guy over and fixed our. Oh, I don't know, something weird's going on over there.
I was sitting here going like, I guess Jim's dropping out right now. No.
I thought it was my connection was causing the problem.
So we'll give him a second to reconnect. Woohoo! Feel like there we go.
Hey, am I back?
You're back.
I'm thinking you're back.
You dropped out.
Everything froze. Like I did my whole intro of you guys, and I'm like, what the hell? Okay.
I was telling Jim if someone were to say, put $100 right now on who's gonna drop on audio, I'd have been like, oh, the guy working from the hotel right now, it's totally So this was a neat little no one expects the Spanish Inquisition moment.
Oh, goodness, where did I drop off?
We were just chatting about Halloween and it was the third. We had just said that it was the third sequel with the name Halloween.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to introduce you guys. And for everyone that's watching live or on the recording on YouTube, you get to see how the sausage is made a little bit.
Sausage.
I know what's on your mind, Will. It's on mine too. All right. So 3, 2, 1. Well, you've heard from them already. Let me go ahead and introduce you to these two fellas. I couldn't live my life without. Jim Pugliafico was with us live on location from a hotel on the road where he's traveling for work. Please forgive his poor audio if the Wi-Fi drops on us a little bit. Jim, how you doing, babe?
Oh yeah, sure. Blame it on me. I'm on travel. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the podcast. Yeah, I'm on travel. I'm on location in wonderful Flagstaff, Arizona, where I can look at. I can wear my short sleeves outside. It's getting cooler here. Winter's here. There's snow on the mountains here, which for Arizona is cool because we can be really warm. In 2 hours away, we can be in the snow. So. Yeah, I'm loving it. Although not loving the reason for this trip. It's work. Got to endure it. But there's a vacation coming up, so I'm good.
It pays the bills, so we can do fun things like go to Palm Springs for a weekend with friends.
Right.
Well, glad you could be with us, babe. Hopefully the Wi-Fi holds out. Will Lindis is here too. Hey, Will, getting ready for BlizzCon, I imagine. Are you ready?
Oh, of course. First of all, it's great to be back recording, Brad and Jim. This is one of my favorite things that we do is just getting together and talking shit or talking good about movies, depending on how those movies turn out. But yeah, as you mentioned, BlizzCon is coming up, the annual celebration of Blizzard Entertainment's products. They're the ones that make World of Warcraft and Overwatch and Diablo, and I'm going to go join those throngs and masses in the crowds watching like a bunch of people play video games and present things about video games, and I am absolutely freaking stoked.
Nice. Well, we'll be about 2 hours away from you, but our weekend looks a little different. We'll be lounging around the pool with fruity drinks and hot friends in skimpy swimsuits or less, hopefully. But we'll, just a couple hours away, yet so far in our experiences.
And any opportunity, like, so the of course, there's the convention itself on some of those days, and I've taken an extra day while I'm there, but I think our plan is going to be driving the opposite direction from you, because we kind of just drive up the coast a bit and find a neat little spot on the beach. I forget where we went last year, but we're going to probably do the same this year, just find a spot to check out the ocean.
Nice.
Yeah, us landlocked folks who live in, landlocked states. Well, Texas is not really a landlocked state.
No.
But you're not really close to the beach either. So any opportunity to get to the beach is something you need to take advantage of.
That's the thing. Texas is such a big state. Like, the amount of time that it takes me in the middle of Texas to get to the ocean is enough time for someone like in some of the, like, the New England states that might be like, maybe 2 or 3 states deep. Away from the ocean, they can make it through those states into the shore in quicker time. So, this is, not the quickest way to get to the ocean, but there's a difference between the Gulf and the Pacific Ocean, and I'm excited to see the Pacific Ocean again.
Awesome.
Yeah, I understand. I know for me, like with the ocean, when you see the line where the sky meets the sea, it calls me. So I can relate.
Could you turn those thoughts into a song, Brad? What would that sound like?
Let me think. You see the line where the sky meets the sea, it calls me. That's the best I can.
Very good.
It was a terrible
how far you'll go either.
Hey, so we've had some. Gosh, I don't know if this is karaoke, if it's scarioke because it's our Halloween episode, if it's barioke, whatever it is. Like, we just did it.
We could make it scarioke.
Husky karaoke.
We could totally make it. We could totally make it karaoke. Anyway, we have a lot to talk about on this week's show. We're going to be reviewing Halloween, the new sequel starring Jamie Lee Curtis. I'm excited to get into this conversation with you guys. We've seen the movie twice now, which is kind of a funny story. And Will, I know you actually got to see this movie at Fantastic Fest. Did you go see it again by chance afterward, or just that original screening?
I haven't. I'm in that terrible, wonderful stretch of the year where all of the movies are starting to hit at the exact same time. Most of the year, I have like the occasional press screener. I don't get very many of them very often. And in the last couple of weeks, I've had like 3 kind of back to back and some more coming up. And so it's just hard to like get repeats in, which sucks because I want to see it again. I want to see Suspiria again. I just don't know when I'm going to find the time.
Sure. I know sometimes you and Scott like go to see things you've already seen, so I wasn't quite sure, but we're going to go ahead and talk about this movie here in just a second. For those of you who are jumping on, if you're not familiar with the format of our show for some reason, we're going to talk about Halloween totally spoiler-free for probably, 10 to 15 minutes. And then we'll give you a fair warning before we sort of rip the Band-Aid off, so to speak, and take a deep dive into spoiler territory. So if you haven't seen Halloween yet, you're on the fence about it, feel free to hang out with us. We'll give you our thoughts on if we think you should see it. We won't spoil the experience for you. And if you have seen it, definitely feel free to share your thoughts on the movie. Just respect the no spoiler thing until we get there in the chat, if you don't mind. Speaking of which, we do have several folks hanging out with us already in the live chat. Hey, folks, feel free to drop your thoughts about anything we're talking about in the live chat as we go. And as long as it's, YouTube appropriate. Maybe we'll give you a shout out on air. But guys, are we ready to do this?
Yeah, let's cut into this one.
Oh, yeah.
Cut into this one. Nice, Will. Puns are great, but I'm going to need you to cut it out. I had to pair Full House with Halloween somehow.
No, because the two are a perfect match.
Right into that one.
Oh, okay, yeah. I like the Jim. Jim, you get the memorial Michael Myers mask for that one. That was a good pun. That was.
All right, here we go, guys. Our discussion of Halloween.
I think we lost Brad right at the transition.
No, we didn't.
Nope, I'm ready to talk Halloween.
Oh! Holy shit, yes!
I'm ready. Wait, is this the right mask? I just ordered something on Amazon. I have no idea.
No, I love it. It's perfect. It's, for listeners listening later, Brad has put on a very thematically appropriate Friday the 13th Jason hockey mask, which I would like to think that even though Jason isn't a part of the Halloween franchise, I'd like to think those two dudes catch a beer every so often, right? Just like, you had a tough day at the killing promiscuous girls grind today. Yeah, you too? Yeah, I totally did.
Yeah, how's things at Camp Crystal Lake? It ain't far from Haddonfield to Crystal Lake, I don't think.
Work's been a killer. Yeah.
They tell stories in these parts of two killers who sometimes meet between Haddonfield and Camp Crystal Lake for a little gentleman's time.
Little hockey game.
I kind of like that in this new film that we just did. Did we just make Sam Elliott the narrator of
I think we did.
Because I mean, put him in everything.
I think if it's Sam Elliott, though, you got to have the word like fuck like every other sentence. Like, I hear there's fucking word of two fucking serial killers who get together in two fucking towns.
And sometimes they fuck. Wait, no, you're off script, Sam.
Oh, goodness.
I thought it was going to be our hockey episode where we review, like Slapshot, Miracle, and Goon.
Mighty Ducks.
In Mighty Ducks, yeah. So hang on to that mask in case we decide to do that.
I'll keep it at the ready. There's a cat behind me causing devastation on my desk.
It's a black cat, Halloween theming.
Hey, there we go. It's also apropos. All right, so guys, let's do this. We're going to kick things off with Will. Will, you got to see this movie with Jamie Lee Curtis, if I recall correctly. How was that? And
oh my God.
Give us some setup for this film and dish about your experience.
Yes. So I saw this at Fantastic Fest. This was the opening night film. This was I don't believe it was the world premiere. It was at least the North American premiere, if not the world premiere. I don't remember where it fell in the premiere list, but that doesn't matter. What does matter is that I breathed the exact same air as Jamie Lee Curtis. Because she was there to both introduce and to do the Q&A with the film afterwards. We learned a lot about the film, a lot about her love of the Five Nights at Freddy's franchise, and how she is an avid World of Warcraft player. Like, so all things that I respect when my film icons are also like down with the gaming. So, but we're not here to talk about Jamie Lee Curtis in the flesh. We're here to talk about Jamie Lee Curtis on film. So Halloween 2018. So rewriting the history of the entire Halloween franchise.
No, don't do that. Don't do that, Will.
What?
Don't the whole history of the franchise.
No. Bear with me on this, okay?
Let's be like,
no. Rewriting the history of the entire Halloween franchise. Halloween 2018 actually eliminates every other film except for the 1978 John Carpenter original. Just wipes them out of existence. So this film is a direct sequel to that film. So in terms of the lore, there's only two movies you have to know about: Halloween and Halloween. They really could have done something better with the title. So this one is set 40 years after Michael Myers had his infamous murder spree across Haddonfield, Illinois, where he wreaked havoc on Laurie Strode, played by young Jamie Lee Curtis, her friends, and the different citizens of that town. Well, here we are 40 years later. Michael Myers has escaped from psychiatric custody, and he is intent on finishing what he started all of those decades prior. However, Laurie Strode, the ever-amazing Jamie Lee Curtis, she's back as well, and she's had 40 years to prepare for his return. I absolutely loved this movie. The new Halloween film is my second favorite of the franchise, following the John Carpenter original. So it's very fitting that in this timeline, my two favorite Halloween movies, outside of Season of the Witch, which I think is sort of underrated, that these two are the only ones that are part of this timeline. I think what you have here is a set of films that serve as sort of a dark mirror to one another. A lot of the themes, the imagery, the shots, the sequences are reflected across this new film in a way that is both fan service to people that appreciate the series, as well as sort of reflecting the way that these two characters, Laurie Strode and Michael Myers, have had this attraction. And I don't mean like sexual attraction or anything like that, but just this like almost this animal-like draw towards one another that stems from this moment of violence and trauma all of those years ago. I love that this film also lets us see the impact of that trauma on Laurie Strode and on her relationships with everyone else in her life, because trauma is one of those things that isn't isolated and compartmentalized to this one moment in time. It seeps out and bleeds into everything else that you touch and everything that you interact with, and it can hurt those relationships. And we get to see how all of those relationships are impacted by this moment that most of the characters in this movie weren't even around for. The violence is fun. You're watching a slasher movie, so you want to see cool kills and creepy moments and tense moments, and all of those are here. There's maybe one scene that's a little out of place, which I can't really talk about until we get to spoilers. But overall, I think this is a very worthy successor to the mantle of the Halloween franchise. This is directed by David Gordon Green, who actually has more of an indie / comedy background. Things like Prince Avalanche, George Washington, Joe, which Jim and I know we watched that at South by Southwest, as well as like the show Vice Principals. He serves as the EP on that. So seeing him come over here, it was refreshing to see this guy bring different sensibilities to this really cool franchise, as well as seeing him and his partner in crime, Danny McBride, who is known as being a comedic actor, being one of the other person that is the primary script writer. And I think that shows there's moments of levity, there's moments of comedy in this movie without it being an actual comedic movie. And those moments come out primarily in some of the lighter moments, the interactions between people as they're healing and as they're touching base with one another. So there's so much to love here. I love this movie. I do think that you should see it, especially for Halloween, which is tomorrow. Go see it.
All right. We got a big recommend from Will. A couple of things from the live chat. JP Wendell says it's not a great movie, but it's a great Halloween sequel, which Will, I think kind of speaks to some of the things that you were saying, especially in terms of some of the other sequels, being thrown out after so many of those films, just like rehashing this franchise into the dirt. Definitely good to see that people are having that response. Also, guys, aside from the Black Cat podcasting with us over my shoulder, we have a brand new listener on board with us this week. Mo from Atlanta is listening to the Movie Rares podcast with us this week. He is a super cutie. Hey, Mo, glad to have you with us. Welcome.
Hey, Mo.
Hey, Mo.
I can't see the chat, but welcome, Mo, to the show.
Mo and show kind of rhyme. Was that on purpose, Jim?
Yeah. Welcome to the show.
It's the Mo Show.
Show Mo.
I'd like to see Mo a Mo. Anyway, let's go on down to Jim. Jim, what did you think of Halloween?
I liked it. I liked the idea, the concept of them stripping away a lot of the other sequels. Which, I mean, if you go over the sequels, they're pretty. They run the gamut from pretty good sequel to kind of crappy sequel. And I like the idea because there were Will's got a scary mask on. They and I think toward the end there, I think it was getting quite watered down with different versions, different timelines, different takes on the movie. So I was really excited for this movie. And what we got was, I think, a worthy sequel to the original movie. Um, I think I'm in line with JP, that I don't think it's a great movie for me. I think it's a good sequel, a good movie. I had some issues with some of the film, specifically the setup. I thought was a little bit drawn out and had some kind of unnecessary stuff in there. We can talk about that a little bit, but I thought the movie got stronger as it went on, much stronger, and picked up steam kind of about halfway through. Definitely something you should see if you like the original movie. We had watched the original a couple of days before seeing Halloween. Then we went to see it, and then we went to see it again. And Brad, I'll let you tell that story. But yes, I enjoyed Halloween, this version of Halloween. Like I said, I didn't think it was perfect. I don't know if it met my expectations. Maybe my expectations were too big on this movie, but I think it's a worthy successor, and I think it's a recommend for me. I think people should see it.
So another recommend from Jim. Before we go any further, Will, I'm gonna focus the camera on you for a second because that mask is great. For those who maybe are listening via digital tape delay, they can't see your mask. Please tell us what this is and what it's from.
I don't know. First of all, can you guys hear me okay through the mask?
Yeah.
Sure. You're a little muffled, but I mean, serial killers behind scary masks are muffled. So,
okay,
go with it.
Yeah. So yeah, this is just a teddy bear with like bloody button eyes and bloody fangs, and I don't know what it's from. I saw this mask at a Halloween theme park thing that I went to last year, and I had to have it. I had to have this thing. So yeah, here it is.
So, Will, you've got your mask. I've got my mask, which means, Jim, you're the final girl on the episode.
Jim's the final girl.
I am the final girl. Yes, I am. And I'm going to take you both out, and we can have an ambiguous ending.
Fortunately, Jim's kept his virginal innocence so that he'll be able to maintain that final girl status.
Hey, Jim.
What? Nice. The hammer is a nice touch.
Yeah, I brought it up to hang my ukulele on the wall, and it's still on my desk. So, hey, I put that mask on for you guys and totally messed up my little hair flip. So I'm just gonna fix it real quick.
We need to stop the show.
There we go.
We need to stop the show.
We're having a hair emergency.
Oh, goodness. All right. So we got a big recommend from Will. We got a big recommend from Jim. I guess it comes down to a little recommend, but a big recommend in terms of the other Halloween sequels, it sounds like. For me, I would say this movie was a win. I liked it a lot more the first time I saw it than the second time. Jim, you mentioned that story, so I'll tell it. Galaxy Theaters just opened a new theater here, literally like half a mile from our house in an old grocery store. It was like a really big, like Bashes, and now it's like a 9-screen movie theater. And so the movie theater officially opens November 1st. But we were driving by and they were having like a soft launch. You could come in and see a movie and check things out. And so we were like, why not? But of course, we looked at the movies that were playing and there was literally nothing that we hadn't seen before that we wanted to see. So we're like, well, crap, what do we do? And we're like, well, let's go see Halloween again. So we had a fun experience checking out a new movie theater. uh, you know, getting to pee in the urinals before millions of people have peed in it. Like it's, you know,
Virginal urinal.
virginal urinal. There you go. But it was a cool experience. I mean, you know, seeing the movie again, maybe not as great as the first time, but definitely it was fun because we had these three girls sitting like right in front of us, like a row down. And every little thing like scared the piss out of them. They'd like hold on to each other. They're like, ah, ah, ah. It was crazy until one of the girls started Snapchatting them all being scared. And I had to be the bad guy that was like, put it away.
That's the worst. Like, give me, like, I don't care if someone is interrupting every line of the movie because they're legit afraid. I get that. That's a fun part of the experience. Mm-hmm. But as soon as they turn that into like a performance piece for their friends on Snapchat, like that is such a non-starter for me. That story went from, I don't know if you guys saw, but like when you were talking about them like screaming and holding each other, I'm smiling. I'm like, yeah, that's what horror should do. And then as soon as you said Snapchat, it just like, boom, blank face. Fucking over that.
Yeah, but so let's rein it back into the movie for me. I liked it a lot. I haven't seen all of the other Halloween sequels. Like I saw the second one. Yes, Halloween 2. I saw the first Rob Zombie Halloween movie. I saw, which one was it where like Michael Myers isn't even involved?
That's number 3, Season of the Witch.
3. Okay, I saw 3. I saw H2O. What they really should have called it was Halloween 90210. But I think the others I didn't see. So I can't judge this one, you know, against all of the other ones. But I would say I think I kind of liked Halloween 2 a little bit better than this Halloween, but it's close. It's very close. I liked it a lot. Great seeing Jamie Lee Curtis back as, you know, sort of this character you think is like totally batshit crazy. And then, of course, surprise is in the trailer. Michael Myers escapes. And it's a good thing she's been preparing for 40 years for him to come back because shit's about to hit the fan. Great to see Judy Greer pop up here. She's been in a lot of different things. I love her to death. And Will Patton. Guys, he was one of my favorite characters ever, Coach Yost in Remember the Titans with Denzel Washington. Kind of had a little bit of a daddy crush on him for quite a while. Still do. So good to see him here too as well. Definitely a fun movie. I would say go out and see this now. I mean, it's about to be Halloween. There's no better time to go see this in movie theaters. But as much as I liked it, I will say it definitely suffers from trying to be a little too homage to the original. I think in some ways it got a little bit distracting. We can talk about some of that in spoilers if you guys want. Also, I feel like as much as I love the Halloween theme, you guys, the whole soundtrack is like that theme with just like 50 different versions of it. And it was pulling me out of the movie a little bit. I'm like, oh, here's another version of that song. I wonder if they could do it with a fiddle. Oh, hey, fiddle Halloween. Like, I don't know. It was a little bit weird for me, but big recommend. I definitely say go see this movie. Guys, any non-spoiler thoughts before we make that transition?
Yeah, I think that the point made by both JP and Jim about like this is a better sequel than it is a standalone film, I think is absolutely apt. Like this is one of those films that draws a lot of its strength because it knows its roots so well and it plays into those. But because of that, like this movie cannot operate in an island. Like the scenes and the sequences only work because they work on the back of that original film. So mileage will vary with that, but I do think that this is a very great, since it's a 1-2 punch between the 78 movie and this one in terms of this new timeline, it does make for a good like movie theme night to watch one than the other.
I want to say some things in spoilers, so I'll just hold on to my tongue.
All right. Well, I think a lot of folks who are going to see this movie have probably seen it already at this point because it's been out for a week and a half, right? So I would say let's just go ahead and transition to spoilers. Are you guys on board with that? Are we down to?
Hell yeah.
All right. So for those of you who are listening live, if you haven't seen the movie yet and you value your virginal final girl innocence, go ahead, step away for 15 to 20 minutes and then come on back for plugs at the end if you like. That's the part of the show where we tell you fun things we think you should check out, you won't want to miss. If you're listening through the magic of digital tape delay on iTunes or Spotify, a few days from now, feel free to refer to your handy dandy time index in the show notes, which Jim will lovingly craft for you, and skip ahead as needed. Folks, here we go. Spoilers are officially fair game. Jim, let's go ahead and start with you on this one. Go for it.
Well, it's a good thing Michael Myers isn't actually on the loose, because the first ones he'd go for are us, podcasters, right? He hates podcasts because the first kills in this movie, well, I won't say the first, but like a couple of the first kills in this movie that we see are of podcasters. And this is the part of the movie that I had a little trouble with, like the whole opening and the asylum, which didn't really make much sense to me, the way they had it. Like that whole like courtyard with the checkerboard pattern, and they had them like chained. Like, do they stay there the whole time? Or, I mean, it was just very weird. Like, and I don't know. It seemed a little bit hokey to me, the way they had that set up. And of course, then we really don't really get any real action there. I mean, it didn't seem to lend to the story. It just, okay, we visit Michael in the asylum. You know, the podcaster dude tries to, I don't know if he's trying to talk to him or what, but he gets no response. And then we launch into what I consider the main story, is where, you know, we meet Laurie and they're moving the prisoners and he escapes. And then havoc reigns. So I just thought the start of this movie, the front end, was a little bit clunky and not as effective as kind of the beginning of the original movie, which launches right into, like, you know, spoilers for the original Halloween, where, you know, little Michael has his moment and takes out the babysitter, right? So I just, like I said, this movie took a while for me to get going. But once it did get going, I was, you know, once the podcasters were out of the way and, you know, Michael was on the loose, I thought the actual escape scene was great. There's a scene, and I don't want to get into too much, but there's a scene with a little boy and a rifle, and he gets onto the bus.
So let's put a pin in that thought so we can respond to some of the things that you're saying.
Okay.
So in the live chat, Sammy W., who we're going to spend the weekend with in Palm Springs, says the beginning 20 minutes were so bad. Good Lord. So Jim, it seems like you are not alone in thinking the beginning of this movie wasn't great.
I'm a little more on board with JP, who says the podcasters were really there to introduce Laurie and Michael, but I thought it worked okay. And I think that having Michael not killing a bunch of people at the beginning of this film was effective, because what it did was it let us build up Laurie and her sort of like domestic drama, in that she essentially abused her daughter for years by like forcing her to be the survivalist, and, you know, whether or not that was good life skills or whether it robbed her of her childhood, the movie, like the different characters in the movie all have very different stances. And that same trauma passes all the way down to the daughter's Judy Greer, and through her daughter, played by, gosh, I don't know who the actress is on that one. Doesn't matter. So yeah, Andy Matichak.
Andy Matichak, yeah. You know, it's funny you mentioned the podcasters. Jim, I think we're safe from Michael Myers and his podcast hate, because we're not like super arrogant, douchey podcasters like they were. Like, when we talk about like the audience of the movie, we're not like, there was a cacophony of sound around us as the images projected across time played across the screens of life. Like, we just say we saw a fucking movie.
Interestingly, though, like the actual like the physical recording device that he used is
Yeah.
damn near identical to the one that I had
Yeah.
purchased to do the live remotes from Fantastic Fest. So it was like
Mhm.
super bizarre, like watching these podcasters with this device get murdered and then walking immediately outside of the theater and being like, okay, let me pull out this exact same thing while
I know.
standing.
I was thinking the same thing because we bought that originally and then you saw it and got one. And I'm like, oh, so we have two of those now when we're at South by Southwest. Does that mean we're like twice the Michael Myers targets now?
Well,
I don't know.
As soon as we saw the scene where like you see a close up of the recorder like being shoved, I forget whether it was during when they were trying to talk to Michael or when it was talking to the doctor or Laurie or what it was. But as soon as you saw that front end with those microphones, I'm like, oh my god, I have that thing.
But I ended up liking that scene a little more than I think than you did, just because I like that it set up these two characters who have had this world of difference between each other. After this thing happened to them 40 years ago, neither of them have moved on with their life. One is in psychiatric care and has turned more and more into more and more into the Michael Myers monster that he is. And one of them has become this, like, Jamie Lee Curtis has become like this deranged survivalist. And I like that this movie let us use the podcasters and let us use sort of what's going on with the family just to set the stakes. Now, there is a scene a little later on in the movie that did give me more of an issue. And that had to do with we have a new psychiatrist in this one. And this is
the new Loomis.
The new Loomis.
You must be the new Loomis. That line is actually in the movie.
Yeah, and I don't mind that, but like, but what I did mind was we're in spoilers. They did this switcheroo thing that didn't go anywhere. Where at one point, the new doctor, Dr. Sartain, ends up with like basically looming over like a dead or dying Michael Myers and takes the mask and looks like he's going to be the villain for the last part of the movie. And I thought, okay, that's a bold call, but I'm on board for it. That's different. But then Michael Myers like immediately kills him, gets the mask back, and it's like all for nothing. It's like at that point, if you're going to do that type of switch and then switch it back, I would rather them have just not put that in at all. I thought that killed momentum.
So I have a question. Is Michael Myers a supernatural force in this movie? Because he gets shot in the head 3 times. I counted when I saw it the second time. He gets shot in the shoulder. By the way, no bullet holes in his costume. Like, how is he surviving all of this? I know earlier sequels set him up as this mystical supernatural force, but he's not supposed to be in this movie, right?
He kind of is, but just without the whole like Cult of Thorns, like weird shit from like Halloween 6, like playing into his backstory. Like, Michael Myers has been, aside from that particular film, which tried to do a full backstory for why he was the way he is, Michael Myers just exists as this like damn near unkillable thing, this shape that keeps coming after you. And yeah, there's something supernatural there. There's something evil that's fueling him, but it's not explained what that is. And for me personally, I like that a little bit better because I think whenever you give backstories to stuff like that, it never quite lives up to expectation.
Yeah, I don't know about the shooting in the head part, but I know that there are. I think there are studies that say like when people are like emotionally or stressed and who knows, with Michael being emotionally disturbed, they can summon like almost like extra human strength, you know what I mean, to do certain things. And I think that's kind of how this movie wanted to portray him. I didn't get the supernatural thing very much. And Will, to your point on that scene where the doctor dons the mask and stuff, I'm like, oh no, please don't go. I was seriously like, do not go down that road, movie. Like, nobody usurps Michael Myers and gets away with it, right? And I'm glad you're right. I wish they hadn't done that. It was kind of dumb. The whole doctor thing was really stupid. Like I said, at one point, they're like, oh, you're like the new Loomis. And I'm like, well, that's great, and I guess that's a kind of fan servicey thing a little bit.
So
obviously he'll have a doctor, but what does that have to do with Loomis? You know?
So earlier when I mentioned that they were like going out of their way to like homage the original and it was super distracting, the new Loomis character was that for me. I'm like, oh my God, they're trying so hard to make this guy like fit into that role. I was glad to see them do something a little bit different with him in terms of like, oh, I'm going to try to be a serial killer so I can understand Michael Myers. But I don't know, that just felt a little forced to me.
Yeah, obviously in the movie, he took it an extra step. He was obsessed with his subject, Michael Myers, and so much wanted to know what made him tick that he was willing. I mean, people argue that, and it's not quite clear in the movie that he played a role in the bus crash, right? It's kind of, I think it's kind of implied that he played a role in the bus crash. And for the sole purpose of letting Michael be loose. And by the way, it's a really great idea to move the most famous, a killer who's famous for a murder spree on Halloween by moving him to another prison on the day before Halloween. Like,
right?
Who comes up with that shit?
But at least it gets us to a point that you were making earlier, Jim, and I'm glad we get to circle back to that about the little kid with the shotgun.
Right.
Yeah.
So let's follow that through. So in the movie, this kid and his dad are like in the truck and they encounter the bus with all the escaped mental patients walking around. Actually, before that, I want to call something out that I thought was really cool. I guess boy is going with his dad to hunt or whatever. And he's like, but Dad, I'd rather be in my dance class. I was like, Go you, progressive movie. Go you. That's awesome.
That was awesome. Yeah.
Also, progressive awesome for this movie. They killed the kid. What did you think about that?
I liked it. Not that I like seeing kids get killed in movies. I kind of do.
But yeah, I'd like to say.
But the fact that the movie had the balls to like take this little kid, this cute kid, he's nice, he's trying to do the right thing, and have Michael Myers like totally snap his neck in the truck. I'm like, oh my God, we're really in for it in this movie. And then in like almost the very next scene, Michael Myers is walking through a house, and I think he just killed somebody, and there's a baby crying, and I'm like, oh, now they're really gonna ratchet it up. He's gonna pick up that baby from the crib and snap its neck or something. But nope, he walks right by and disappoints me.
Two things there. So the scene with the crash was one of my favorite scenes of the film, just because the whole thing plays out almost like a little short film within the film itself, in that you have a different protagonist in the boy and supporting cast and his father dealing with this serial killer at this bus crash thing. And it was incredibly tense. There was long shots where not long shots, but there are these shots where you would have the fog and you would have the different inmates who had escaped. And some of them were just sort of standing in the fog because these are people who are, by the movie's logic, not mentally there. And
they're in a fog. Well,
yeah, they're in a mental fog. And so it's creepy as an audience member because oh man, is one of these guys Michael? Where's he at? That whole sequence played out very, very interestingly. And then I really liked the stalking of Haddonfield stuff too. Like we got to see Michael being Michael, hammering people and killing people left and right. And I actually didn't even mind I didn't even mind him not killing the baby, because one of the things that is always creepier for me is when someone does something that's unexpected. And I think that and it's not that he had sympathy for this baby or whatever. It's just there's several times walking around where kids would be running by with masks and he doesn't pick up every single one of them and just smash them into trees. He sort of picks a target and goes. He's he gets sort of locked on whatever his next target is and just goes after that. And around that time, he looked outside the door and was like, okay, I'm going out there now. So the baby didn't even register for him. I didn't mind that as much.
So we got a few glimpses at not directly at Michael and Michael's face, but kind of from the side and from the back of his face. And is he like a daddy bear at this point? Like there was beard there, and I don't know. There seemed to be he seemed to be quite a bit hairy.
I mean, I think I've seen him on Growler a few times, but
sure we have, yeah.
I marked Casual Encounter as no for that one.
Oh goodness.
M. Myers, I've seen him.
Wow. Hey, can we talk about the granddaughter and her really fucking annoying friends for a minute?
Yeah, you
mean
the ones that were in the movie only to be killed? Those
ones? Yeah, those ones.
Yeah.
I felt like they were trying to like homage the original, right, with Lori and her friends, and I think there is some fun in like seeing the pattern repeat again. But I don't know. I found all of them super annoying, at least in the original film. Like, I don't know, maybe the snark of her friends worked a little better for me. I cared more about them.
Yeah.
But all of these friends, I was happy to see gorily murdered. Yeah. I'm just glad the kid that the Vicky character was babysitting was smart enough to get the fuck out of Dodge and survive.
He was one of them. Like the boy that was being babysitted was one of my favorite characters of the movie. He didn't have very much to do, but he was he got to be sort of like a mouthpiece for some of the comedic writing that Danny McBride is known for. But it wasn't over the top. He wasn't like, sometimes you watch these movies with like a kid sidekick where they're just like quipping back and forth and he just drives you freaking crazy. Here he had some funny moments, but he also had some terrified moments. Brad, I missed some of what you said because I was laughing incredibly hard at something that was written in chat.
No, don't talk about that yet because I'm going to do something to go with it.
Okay.
Put a pin in it.
Yeah, the kid was a good audience surrogate. Like, there's a moment in the movie where, like, I forget what happens. Like, Michael Myers is coming up the stairs or something, and the kid's just like, "Oh shit!" And that was like one of the funniest moments of the movie. But it's actually exactly what the audience is thinking because here comes the threat, Michael Myers. So yeah, I liked that part, and of course, that all of that stuff was kind of missing in the first movie. It was pretty much straight terror, straight horror. Not much comedy came from those characters. If I think back on those, like the teenage friends characters in the first movie, they were pretty annoying too. The babysitter girl who's trying to make cookies or whatever. The two that are getting it on in the parents' bedroom. I think this movie kind of followed suit a little bit with those kids. These ones were a little bit more forgettable to me for some reason. And I don't know if it was the acting or just the kind of the lines that they had, but yeah, they didn't really make much of an impression. But let's face it, they're just there to get slaughtered.
Yeah, including like one thing that is a very far departure for 2018 versus kind of like 70s and 80s slashers. I think we had a soft spot in our minds collectively for the the air quotes nice guy best friend to the hot girl, like think about like the ducky, so to speak, or that type of character. In this movie we have that like nice guy air quotes best friend who's just trying to get into her pants as well, and the movie is way less kind to him, and that's something that we've seen kind of culturally shift. This whole like the nice guy, I deserve to have women, how come I don't get the girls kind of bullshit that you start to see kind of reflected across like incels and all of those types of people. I like that this movie got to see a different side of an archetype, which is sort of common in these movies.
Yeah, I agree. There was a little bit of a different twist on, especially on that character there. And that was cool. Brad, did you have something you wanted to talk about in the chat?
Keep going. I'll be right back with you.
Oh, okay. Will, let's talk about, I want to talk a little bit about the ending. So we see that Laurie's character, 40 years later, she's turned into kind of a recluse, I guess. She's raised her kids. her kids have raised kids, so now she has a granddaughter who the movie focuses on a little bit. She's a little bit of a kind of considered a little bit of, and she's had her trauma, we get it, but she's kind of out there. She's kind of treated as kind of a kooky recluse, which I don't know. I wanted to see a little bit more from the character than we got in this movie, but that's just the way I would have wrote the character, and I didn't get to write the character. But we see her like shooting guns and practicing on mannequins, and she's practicing her gunmanship basically. And I don't think she got to use a gun, did she?
Oh yeah, there was definitely some gunplay kind of towards the end. I mean, not like, like doing crazy like ninja gun moves, but she got to fire some shots. I
don't think any that were impactful though. Like,
well, there was really only one impactful shot, and it was relegated to another character for a very I think a very character-driven reason. Mm-hmm. I think that we got the characterization that we see out of this Laurie Strode is that she has focused so much of her energy and her life and sacrificed so much for life and her relationships that she is really good at these very specific things. She knows how to make traps. She knows how to shoot guns. She knows how to do all these things, but she ruined her daughter effectively, or at least her relationship with her. She created the daughter played by Judy Greer, has had to do a lot of readjustment, and in fact was taken by Child Protective Services because of the way Laurie acted. And then that relationship, the way that she has now overcorrected a different way with the granddaughter, who sees the Laurie Strode character in a sort of a different light than the mother does. I think we get to see a lot of. I would say that I think we get to see a lot of the Laurie Strode characterization here, in the way that she interacts with and struggles to interact with her family. I think that's one of the truest ways to see who a character is just how they bond with or how they distance themselves from the people who are supposed to be their loved ones, and that's what this movie was all about.
So, guys, thanks for your patience with me while I was working in the background. Will, go ahead and tell us why you were laughing so hard earlier.
Yeah, so when we mentioned the whole growler thing and all of that, JP mentions his profile just says mask for mask, but that's MASK number 4 MASK. So not masculine for masculine. It's I wear a fucking mask looking for someone wearing a fucking mask. And I am here for that. If this actual app existed, I would be on it and probably murdered.
This is awesome.
Jim, what are you looking at?
I'm looking at the mask for mask with Michael Myers on it.
So that's what I was working on in the background. I made a growler profile. Well, not a real profile. It's Photoshop profile. But I made a growler profile for Michael Myers. JP, just for you.
I dare you to put that up on Growler.
Yeah, do it, Brad. Put that up on Growler and see what happens.
I'm okay, really. I'm good. But JP, thank you for that awesome play on words there.
You need to let me tweet it then.
Okay, I'll send it to you.
Yeah.
Oh, goodness.
His name Prowler or something.
Prowler,
yes.
Oh my gosh. I'm doing it right now. Okay, keep talking. I gotta make that happen.
Oh my god.
I gotta add it to the image.
This is so good.
So, I want to talk more about the end of the movie. So at the end of the movie, we see the end of Michael Myers in this movie. He gets trapped in Laurie Strode's cool little basement trap that she has set up, and supposedly intentionally burned to death in the basement. Although we never see him die, right? We've gone through this before, right? We don't see a body at the end. As a matter of fact, we do get a little bit of a stinger in this movie. Will, I don't know. Did you get one?
I don't remember at this point. And so the one thing that sucks about having last seen this at the festival is I did the count. I've seen 50 movies since I saw this movie. So I don't remember if I saw a stinger or not.
Yeah. So the stinger we got was, I have the app. When we get to the end of movies, Brad and I are watching movies. I pull out my app and there's an anything after app basically. And it tells you if you should hang around for a stinger. So if there is one, I typically want to see it. So we hang around after the credits are done, and there's a lot of credits. All you get is a dark screen with Michael Myers breathing sound. That's it.
Yes. Okay. We did have that. Yeah.
So
yeah.
What that says, though, to me is we do have Michael Myers after the end of this movie. Apparently, it kind of is a hint that, hey, Michael's not dead. Surprise, surprise. So I suspect that this movie will do well at the box office, and maybe we'll get another. Did they talk about that, Will, at the festival?
Not specifically, although you kind of got the vibe that everyone was sort of in this, like, let's see how it does mode, because this was before they got to see what their box offices would look like, and before they would see what kind of general audience feedback would be like. But it's done fairly well for itself, and it's been getting fairly positive not just critical reception, but audience reception as well. I think that if they wanted to continue this franchise, I think they would be very easily able to do so. And I think they left themselves that escape hatch just in case.
Yeah, I think so too. You done working your magic, Brad?
I am. I'm sending it to you now. But here, guys, check it out. Do I still have it open?
I
closed it.
It's on. You just shared it on Facebook.
I shared it on Facebook, but for those who are not on Facebook right now, here you go. Here it is. Michael Myers' Prowler profile.
Yes. This is great.
Yeah.
Oh, goodness. Anyway, guys, any final thoughts on Halloween before we move on to some plugs?
Anything we didn't talk about that was worthy? Favorite scenes? Least favorite scenes?
I think mine are. I hit on those. My least favorite was with the kind of the misdirect and then taking it off the table with the new Dr. Loomis. And my favorites were probably the bus crash and then the last act of the movie as a whole.
Yeah,
just all of the stuff at the house.
The last act. I like there's a scene in the middle, kind of the baby scene is part of this, where Michael is kind of on a tear. He's going through homes in Haddonfield, and he's just walking, and the score amps up at that point, and you see him from the back walking into some random home, and just murdering whoever's there. And that was pretty terrifying to see him kind of on the loose and doing his thing. To me, that was kind of probably my favorite part of the movie. Another least favorite part might be the cops eating lunch in the car. That little comedy bit that they do with the banh mi sandwich. And I'm like, I don't know. It's kind of weird to have comedy like right in the middle of, especially at that point in the movie, it's kind of amping up toward the finale. And I don't know, maybe it broke the tension enough to make it work at the end. I'm not sure. But your mileage is going to vary when it comes to comedy like that.
I mean, Sammy said that the banh mi sandwich cop skit was like the worst thing in the movie almost. Well, so there you go. Mileage does vary.
It's just incongruous to kind of, the scene in the movie, and it could take you out a little bit.
It's weaker than, I think you can do comedy in something like this without it being like Shaun of the Dead or something goofy. Like we already mentioned, just the boy that's being babysat. He has some real funny lines in a scene that is remarkably terrifying and doesn't lose any of its terror, despite his just how witty this kid is. So I think that is a much better use of comedy in a tense situation than the banh mi cops.
Yeah.
Well, Halloween was fun. It's Halloween time. Maybe this isn't the best movie in the universe, but if you're looking for something thematically linked to this time of year, where kids are killed and bad comedy happens, this could be the movie for you. But it is awesome to see women kicking ass. I will tell you, my favorite moment in this movie was not a Jamie Lee Curtis moment, believe it or not. My favorite moment was when Judy Greer's character is like crying. She's holding the gun. She's like, I can't do it. I can't do it. And then Michael Myers is at the top of the stairs and she's like, gotcha.
Yep.
I loved that.
This, I mean, for a film that's about trauma and about people overcoming their trauma, that was a great way to see that from not the character's perspective, from a character that you weren't expecting it from. You were expecting this to be more about Laurie Strode and the granddaughter's growth, with the mother kind of being the stick in the mud through the movie a bit. Like, that's kind of her role, at least compared to the Laurie Strode character. And she gets to have, to me, probably the biggest growth arc.
Yeah, that felt a little weird to me. Like a kind of a mid to lower supporting character in the movie really didn't have a lot to do, gets kind of the biggest dramatic turn in the movie, in the climax of the film. It's an odd choice. I think it worked in the moment, but it felt a little strange when I first saw it. I'm like, she basically gets to take the guy out in a sense.
Yeah,
indeed.
But this is a movie that, like, here we are, all three of us, like, you know, we picked some things to kind of like talk about, but at the end of the day, all three of us give this one a recommend. So I think it's fair to say this one gets the MBP stamp of approval for Halloween.
Mm-hmm.
Now we need an actual stamp, guys. Can we make that a thing, like with our logo?
Sure.
I mean, probably, yeah. I mean, our logo does lend itself to three-dimensionality, so yeah, we can do that.
I'm going to hire someone on Fiverr right now to make a stamp for us. And then at South by Southwest, you guys, when we meet people in network, we can offer to stamp their badges.
Oh, see? Yeah, so who needs a business card when we can just, like, literally stamp our logo on people's faces? Like, remember us.
Oh, boy. All right, guys. How do we feel about some plugs? Are we on board?
Do it.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Awesome. So my plug this week is for a video game, believe it or not. I am not typically a fan of Western movies, but I've been playing a lot of Red Dead Redemption 2. And I got to tell you, I'm enjoying the hell out of it. Jim, I've played more since you and I talked about it a couple days ago. It was kind of a slow burn plotting start for me, but as I've gotten more into the game and it gets off the like tutorial rails and the world really opens up, I feel like I'm riding through like an old Western movie in like glorious like 4K. Like, it's just so beautiful. It's so cinematic. I feel like I'm playing a movie as opposed to playing a video game. Will, I know you and I have been talking a lot about the new Spider-Man game for PlayStation 4. And I don't know, for you, if that feels like a Spider-Man movie for you, but that game kind of did the same thing for me. So I feel so lucky to live in a day and age where like I can play a video game that's also like an incredible movie at the same time. So Red Dead Redemption 2 is my plug for the week.
Very cool. I did get to see a little bit of it. It looked great. But not being a gamer, I don't know if I could get into a game that long. It looked like several other games that you've played. Just it seemed like the gameplay was like several other games that you played, just with a different backdrop, like Western instead of some fantastical Zelda world or something, And there's a lot of space to explore.
I found a woman trapped under her own horse out in the middle of the country today.
Oh no! How long was she there?
Free her?
I did free her. She had been there for a few days. She's trapped under her horse. I did free her.
Did you rob her?
I did not. I rode her back to town, and she gave me a silver emblem ring as
Were her
a
legs
reward.
tired?
No, they were crushed. She couldn't walk.
Oh, I thought when you rode her back to town, like you just popped the saddle on.
It wasn't her legs that were, I mean, her legs were crushed. Leave it at that. Anyway, so that's my plug for this week. Will, I want to touch base with you just real quick. Spider-Man, are you having fun with it? Does it feel like a movie? Like,
yeah. Okay, so first of all, I'm having a lot of fun with it. Like, it's a great game. It reminds me a lot of what I wanted the Batman Arkham Asylum games to be. Like, I never got into those the way other people did. I always felt like the controls just didn't feel right in my hands. This feels very right. Like, you know, when I'm like dodging and weaving through fights or like sneaking around or webbing through the city, like whatever I'm doing, like it feels like remarkably comfortable. I would say it could feel like a movie if I didn't stop to do side quests every damn second. Like the game gives you so many, like, we're going to give you, like, you could go on with the story, or you could spend the next 3 hours getting these new collectibles we just put in game. And I've opted for that every single time. I've been clearing the map of side quests instead of moving on with the story. So, but it is fun. It is very fun. I like the characters. I like the graphics, and I like the gameplay. So, I mean, that's all you can ask for.
Well, good. I'm glad to hear that. Well, Jim, what have you got for plugs this week?
I went and saw a movie this weekend that I've been kind of looking forward to for a long time. It's a new movie by David Lowery, director David Lowery, who did Ghost Story. He did Pete's Dragon. He did Ain't Them Body Saints, which I loved. And this one is called The Old Man and the Gun. This one stars Robert Redford in what Robert Redford himself has said probably his last acting role, although I'm not sure I believe that. Also has Sissy Spacek in this and Casey Affleck. Robert Redford plays this career bank robber, kind of like a gentleman, gentleman criminal, I guess, if you will, who just loves robbing banks and can't stop doing it. And Casey Affleck is a cop that's trying to find him, hunt him down. Sissy Spacek is somebody he meets randomly and falls in love with. I really love this movie. Robert Redford is great in it. If we haven't seen enough of Robert Redford in the last several years, but he kind of brings back that kind of charm and swagger that he had in like Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, or you know, some of his movies where he just pours on the charm. And here he has it too. I love David Lowery's movies. They have a gentle touch, straightforward, not a lot of whiz bang in this movie, but tons of character work. The charisma or chemistry between him and Spacek is, I mean, from the get-go is really, really great. I recommend seeing this movie. It's called The Old Man and the Gun. It's in theaters now wide, should be everywhere. Check it out.
All right. I'm going to stop calling it The Old Man and the Sea, Jim. I was only doing it to be funny, but if it was that good, I need to reference it by its true name.
It's one of the better movies of the year, I think.
Well, awesome. Glad to hear that you came down so favorably on it. Will, how about you? What have you got this week?
First of all, listeners, keep an eye on our site. I have a few written reviews that are going up, either already live by the time you've heard this, or will be going up soon, including Johnny English Strikes Again, which I saw.
I read you.
Yeah, that review is already live. Can You Ever Forgive Me, the new Melissa McCarthy movie, and Boy Erased, and I've got a few others on deck. Coming up for early November, like late November, like Destroyer and Vice and the new Barry Jenkins movie. But those are neither here nor there. What is here is a Netflix movie that I would very much like for more people to watch, and it's called The Night Comes for Us. This is a by Netflix movie. I mean, it's a new film that's been released that is that's been picked up and distributed by Netflix. It's by director Timo Jajanto, and I'm probably butchering that, and I feel awful for having done so. So this movie it's an Indonesian fight movie. It's about this dude that is essentially like one of the top 6 or 7 top 6 assassins in the world, and he gives it up one day because after murdering this village, he sees that there's kind of one little girl that's left and decides to spare her, and that doesn't fit well with any of the other assassins that he used to work with, who were all after him. The fights in this movie, the best way to think of it is, imagine if you watched The Raid and you liked the fights in The Raid, that is every single fight sequence in this movie. If you liked the hallway scene in Old Boy, if you liked that fight in the very beginning, I think episode 2 or 3 of Daredevil season 1, those just brutal fights with interesting camera work. Yeah, so this movie has so many incredible fights. It's a brutal movie, so it's don't go into this if you are squeamish about blood, because some of these kills are pretty spectacular, but the action kicks so much ass. It's called The Night Comes for Us. It's on Netflix. What the hell are you doing? Go watch it right now.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna have to watch this in chunks because I chunks. I watched about a quarter of it the other day, and it is a straightforward bloody fight scene after bloody fight scene after bloody fight scene, and the story is very simple. I mean, there's really much story there. It's just one guy who's trying to protect this little girl, I guess.
Yep.
And it's insane. So if you like that kind of balls out, fight to the death, everybody dies, a bloody death movie, that's definitely one to look for.
I think it's my favorite action movie of the year.
Well,
wow.
In terms of quantity, definitely.
And quality too. This is, it's so brilliantly choreographed. It's one thing to see a fight movie where there's just a bunch of people doing a Street Fighter tournament, the Street Fighter movies or whatever. Yeah. But this one, the choreography is always compelling, and it always finds an interesting way of working around whatever props or environments they happen to be in.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Well, very good. Glad to hear that that one was such a big hit for you. Well, that's great. Guys, I just want to give a quick shout out to everyone who is hanging out with us live tonight. I know we've kind of been skipping around a little bit with the scheduling for the show, just because scheduling has been nuts for us the last month or so. But thanks for sticking with us, and JP and Sammy and Mo and everybody else who's in the live chat tonight. Glad to hang out with you guys. Don't forget, you can access our back catalog in iTunes, on Stitcher Radio, on Spotify, and on our website. This was episode 299 of the Movie Bears podcast, which means our next episode is the big 300. We're in the middle of finalizing our plans for that episode. Stay tuned. We'll let you know what we're going to do, but it should be fun, a good way to commemorate. And then, guys, in another month and a half, it's going to be our 6-year anniversary. Can you believe we've been doing this podcast for 6 years almost?
We're in first grade. This podcast can read now.
We're leaving kindergarten and entering first grade.
Aw. All right. Well, I'm going to go grab some cookies and milk then, I guess, and take a nap. All right, everyone. Well, we will see you all next time. We'll have a phenomenal time at BlizzCon. And if anybody's in the Palm Springs area for Pride this weekend and wants to talk movies, you can find us on Growler, or, just hit us up on Facebook, Twitter, all that good stuff. Guys, real quick, how can people find you, Jim? Go.
Find me on Twitter at JJP Out West, all one word, JJP Out West. You'll find me tweeting there occasionally. You can also find me on Facebook under my name, Jim Pugliafico.
All right. Awesome. Will, how about you?
Hey, check me out on Twitter. I'm at Whatever Cove. I'm on Facebook, William Lindis. Just send me a message so you make sure you get the right William Lindis, because there are two. And also make sure you check me out on letterboxd.com. Just search for William Lindis and find me there. And finally, as Brad mentioned, look for me at BlizzCon. I will be the one probably wearing the Philadelphia Fusion jersey, walking around the Overwatch arena. So if you happen to be there, please reach out. I'd love to say hi.
All right, awesome. And you can find me on Facebook. Just search for Brad Harris. I'm the one that probably has Bear Chub Chaser friends in common with you. You can also find me on Twitter at iBradPro or Instagram at MSU Big Guy. We'll see you all next time. Goodbye, everyone, and have a happy and safe Halloween. See you later. Bye.
Happy Halloween.
That was our stinger. It was the best I could do.
That's your thing. I mean, you're either the shape or your sex sounds. I think both work.
We should turn that into a game. Getting murdered or having sex.
Which one was that?
That was totally your O sound, Will.
Really?
We'll have to find out.
Bye, everybody.